the first werewolf story I ever read was Stephen King's Cycle of the Wolf, which was an illustrated novella that focuses around a single year in this small town where a werewolf terrorizes the townsfolk each full moon. Loved it, and I've been hooked on werewolves ever since. There's just something about that transformation, that anybody could be the monster, the mystery of it. That's just made werewolves pretty much my favourite monster.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm a bit of a fan of the old wolf creature myself, but for me it was films. I can't remember whether it was The Howling or possibly American Werewolf in London that I watched first, but it kind of set me on my path to watch every werewolf film I could possibly get my hands on. Getting very close to the end.
You getting close?
I'm getting very close. So it was really nice to find a good werewolf story to add to our Halloween special.
Yes, indeed. Now we have Riven, written by Bo Hampton with art by Robert Tinnell, and in many ways, it's a classic werewolf story.
It certainly is, and that's its strength and also I think its
Yeah?
weakness.
How do you mean?
Okay, let's take our lead character, Katie. She's a young woman with a mysterious past and going through a change. She's having visions of terrifying wolf attacks. She's getting stronger and more endurance. She's suffering from bouts of overt sexuality, which she then can't remember. All of that is pretty much par for the course for a werewolf transformation.
Okay. I know what you're saying. We have seen this sort of thing before.
We
but,
have.
I mean, at least the setup is kind of original. You know, she's in a coma for 5 years and comes out of it a fully grown woman.
Yep.
So, you know, those sort of that stunted sexuality and those sporadically accelerating sexuality does make sense in that kind of context. That said, I did spend most of this book waiting for the next werewolf bit to kick off.
Yeah, well, the werewolf bits in this are so good. The violence is brutal enough without it going too far and, you know, stringing intestines all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there is that one bit where he turns that guy into a Pez dispenser. That went pretty
Nasty.
far. But it was, yeah, you're right. It didn't go too far, I think.
No.
But look, that worked. I think there was this kind of twisted, sadistic sense of humor to the werewolf. I mean, there was clearly a mind at work here. It wasn't just a brainless beast.
Yep.
And you got this real feeling of a predator just playing with his prey.
And I think they were the segments where the art really popped in this as well. It was fun and playful and dynamic. And there's a whole segment on a boat, which I kind of read it and then went, no, I have to go back and check that out again because it's so well done in that. And then you go back to the sections with Katie and her family and the artwork is still really good, but it doesn't have that same dynamicness as the werewolf. It kind of puts me in mind of those early creature feature styles. It's good, but it's not really kind of there.
Yeah, and in terms of the time spent with those characters, especially with Katie, I found her a bit insipid.
I did like the best friend more, I found.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's classic best friend material for these sort of things, right down to the glasses. But with Katie, I don't know, her whole adolescence getting crammed into a couple of months thing got a bit tired, and I just started to find her irritating.
I do think that Hampton could have pushed this story a little bit faster. I mean, you get to the final act where Katie goes back to Romania because she's actually been adopted by American parents, and you just feel like there's just so much exposition that's shoved into this tiny little section at the end. I wish that had been spread out a bit more.
I think they could have gotten to that point halfway through.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that would have been great. Instead of just the last 2 chapters of a 6-chapter story, put it in halfway through, spread that exposition out. I think that would have really helped the pace.
I agree. I mean, overall, Riven, it's a pretty good werewolf story. You know, I finished it and went, yeah, that was good. But I didn't want to go back and reread it. It's doing nothing kind of new or genre defining. It does have a nice ending to it and it's got a few good reveals, which I won't reveal.
No.
Ultimately, it's a borrow from me. It was good, but, you know, I'm not going to read it again.
Yeah, look, I think if they had spent more time on the wolf stuff and less on Katie's awakening, I probably would have given this one a buy, because when it's on, it's really on. But in the end, I'm going to give this one a borrow.
Yep.
It is a fun read, but I don't know, it took too long to get to the point.
Yeah.